Alright, so we're back once again, and today we're going to be going over 5 of the types of players I've come across in all the time I've been playing World of Warships. Some of these players are good, some are pretty bad, and some are just downright horrible. But I'm sure you'll be able to relate to some of these because whether we've all been one, or at the very least you've met several of these types of players in your games, which can be pretty funny, interesting, enjoyable, or just downright an unfun experience depending on what type of player decides to hit that battle button at the same time as you. But with that being said, let's get into it. And if you enjoy this type of content, you can always subscribe. The quiet super unicorn player. This is the guy that when you look around at all the ships in your team at the start of the game, they're the one rocking that ranked type 50 camouflage. You think to yourself, oh, hey, that camo looks pretty cool, I wonder how they got it. And in the next few minutes they proceed to show you exactly how they got that camo by getting every achievement known to man within the game, be it Dreadnought, Solo Warrior, Kraken, Confederate, High Caliber, or Witherer. And then just as quietly as they enter the game, all you see as you sit there in amazement of what happened is a simple little GG in all chat before the game inevitably ends within 10 minutes. Now, many people in the game, usually the person at the bottom of the scoreboard, will call this person lucky, or that they just got really good RNG for this one game, and they then decide to check the stats to back up their shit talking. And that's when everything really falls apart, because what they're greeted with isn't exactly what they expected. What they expected was a 40% win rate player who only plays tier 2 and has 30,000 games on the Kawachi. But what they actually see is a 70% win ratio everywhere, all games basically at tier 10 with about 100 games on each ship. And as a result, the same toxic player that was shit-talking this guy just a few seconds ago suddenly goes all quiet and learns an important lesson. Sometimes it isn't RNG, sometimes it isn't luck. Most times these players are just ridiculously good at the game and you should think twice before shit-talking. Let's get on to the next player. The Whaler. This is the guy, or girl, who, as you can probably guess, spend not just a little bit in the game, but most of their salary buying every single ship, camo, flag, and anything else you can imagine in the game. They're the ones that rocked to Puerto Rico on the very first day the dockyard was released, and even now they'll be one of the first to play the Odin in the most recent dockyard. Now, although they may basically have every single premium ship in the game, for some inexplicable reason, they tend not to have all that many Tech 3 tier 10s. I wonder why that might be. I'll give you a little hint. It's because you can't buy Tech 3 ship experience, and as a result they tend to be a little bit below average on the skill side of things. What this leads to is as you play games after certain events or after certain releases, this weird idea that the new ship is somehow trash pops into your head, but this isn't the case. What is actually happening is that the whales are taking the new ship, playing it to oblivion, and that in and of itself generates a negative opinion in your head, not the fact that the ship is actually bad itself. Now, I'm not saying all whalers are actually bad, I'm 100% sure that there are many that are super unicorns, but this seems to be a suspiciously constant trend for it not to be included here. However, it's not all bad, and I myself as a filthy free-to-play player must say thanks to the whales in the game, as without them the game simply wouldn't exist. They help pay for the salaries of all those employed in wargaming, the server costs, and even the cost of creating the very same events that they love so much. So thank you. Let's move on to the next player. The Dead Team Commander. This player is exceptional but not uncommon. There comes a point in some games where maybe a player went a little bit too over the top and they charged into the enemy team, head first in the Shimakaze and proceeded to die within the first 7 minutes of the game, but that's when something magical and mysterious happens. This player that initially played with a duck given a keyboard suddenly turns into the physical incarnation of Isukuro Yamamoto, Karl Durnitz, and John Jellicoe, all joined into one, and as you can probably guess, decides that they are the best player on the entire team, and then proceed to mark orders at the other ships in the team that have actually managed to do something this player couldn't conceive of, not dying early in the game. Whether you're not angling 100% effectively, you're positioned in a slightly less than perfect position, or you were unable to perfectly dodge those 15 torpedoes coming straight at you, this player will never fail to point that out. They love to point the blame, not at the fact that if they didn't die early, then perhaps the game would have been a hell of a lot easier to win. Oh no. They blame the fact that you couldn't citadel that bow in Kremlin from 16 km in your Des Moines instead. Now, I'm not going to pretend that all these players are this obnoxious, of course not. Sometimes you get the light version of this player, who dies in a ranked game or something, and although they think they're giving you good advice, and maybe the advice is actually good, more often than not, all it does is distract you and just increases the chances of you and your team losing the game. Don't be this player. If you feel the need to type after dying in a game, just make it GG and exit to port and play something else. Yourself and your team will be thankful, and that's a lot more fun than trying to play team manager. Let's move on. The Peaceful Pink Player. This type of player comes with a warning, the kind of warning you see on a radioactive waste just fresh out of the reactor. I mean, the fact that this person is pink is in and of itself a warning that maybe, just maybe, this person is going to be the most wholesome player. Now, with most of these players, you're going to get the players that just got pink by accidentally bumping into their ally Yamato while leaving spawn for just a little bit too long in the previous game. I'm not talking about those players. Those players are generally harmless and will often even type sorry when they do stuff like that. No, the players I'm talking about are on a different level. The second you enter the game until the second you leave the game, they are hurling nothing but the most horrible insults, attacks, and sometimes even personal attacks at the first poor player to do something that they somehow conceive as incorrect. These players are one of the most horrible things about playing this game, and generally any game, because these types of players exist in basically every online game. It comes down to the fact that they just take the game too seriously and most often aren't even having fun, and that means you can't either. And because it's exceptionally hard to ban these types of players in World of Warships, they persist and never seem to go away. For the most part you can mute these players, but they mutate, much like the radioactive waste that I described them as, and instead of just trash talking in chat, they decide to actually start either shooting you, torping you, or just plain ramming you. This is rare, but I've had it happen to me, and you should be aware too, and be careful the next time you see a pink player in game, because it might just be the type to make you regret pressing that battle button altogether. Moving on to the next player. And at last we reach the final player, the YOLOer. This is a tricky one because I believe we're all YOLOers to an extent. Some more than others of course. Not all of us think it's a good idea to only use the W key in the game because we think we're on the wrong team and need to go to the other side of the map. Some of us are just a little bit too eager to get into the battle, and before we know it, we push too far in and you end up getting focused by the enemy Smolensk, Conqueror, Thunder, Kremlin and any other ship/plane in a 70-kilometer radius. The kind of player that I would describe as a YOLOer is someone that has almost none or next to none awareness, be it situational or any other kind of you can think of. Their favourite ship is none other than the Groza Kurfürst, and boy oh boy do they use the tankiness of that ship to the highest extent they can. But the problem tends to be, because they have no real awareness, is that their secondaries tend to end up doing more damage than their actual main guns. Even when they do manage to get a flat on broadside battleship through some miracle, they end up either hilariously shooting HE or accidentally aiming the superstructure of that broadside Kremlin because they know just how tanky that ship is. But generally the YOLOer is much more fun to watch than probably any other type of player, because one way or the other it's either going to be incredibly funny as hell because they'll panic and have no idea what to do once they get into that advanced position, or they'll probably by some miracle win you the game, mostly due to the other team's inability to aim correctly, not any great skill on the part of the YOLOer. And that's pretty much it for the 5 different types of player you'll meet in World of Warships. This doesn't cover all of it, but I hope you had a little bit of enjoyment from this video, and it was completely meant in jest. If you liked this video, you can like it, and if you didn't like it, you can dislike it, and if you like this content, you can subscribe. But until next time, I'll see you in the next one.